Welcome to the Hawkscast, featuring your hosts Troy Donis and Sean McMahon, here to talk you through all things in the South Warrandyte cricket world.
Hello and welcome to the first ever edition of the Hawkscast. We're going to be bringing you this very 2020 show throughout the cricket season, as it's a little bit unlikely that we'll be able to share a beer, at least in the immediate future, after the game or before the game at training or anything like that. So we're going to talk all things Hawks in this podcast and keep the Hawks community up to date. And with me as the host is going to be Sean McMahon. Sean, how are you going?
Absolutely thrilled to be here, Donis.
You're certainly a man of words, and we're grateful to have you on this podcast. Sean and myself will be co-hosting throughout the season, and we'll have a range of guests on. And this week's show, we thought we'd just go straight to the top, get the big man himself, J.Exley, and get all the ins and outs of this season. And later on in the show as well, we're going to have Tuggy in to talk all things vets with us and to tell us why his daughter is already better than him at cricket. So looking forward to that. Sean, what have you been up to in the off-season? Have you been putting on a few COVID kilos, or have you just been working out in the gym, as I can imagine you doing?
Obviously, we're well aware that fitness and health is what I dream and live for. And watching the big fella Raquel Cornwell spin a mystery in England, I have taken to getting to 140 kilos, as the big fella has done. Watch out.
That is peak performance.
Peak performance doesn't come easily.
You're the only man I've seen. You came back from a European holiday, so you've effectively been in summer at this point for about 8 months in a row, and you came back like the week before the season started. And with a pair of shorts on, I actually had to put my sunnies on from the reflection. You were so pasty. You'd somehow gotten less tanned on a European holiday and put on an enormous amount of weight. So you were still able to bounce me though. So I'm looking forward to facing you with a few extra kilos, to be honest.
Can certainly bounce you, but do struggle with the warm-up lap at training.
No prizes for guessing that one. We've got the fixture coming out soon, Sean. We've been told by the RDCA president, Michael Finn, that it looks like the season case numbers going well at this stage.
Touch wood.
Should start on November 14, with training to begin on October 26. So we're hopefully starting a couple of weeks of the games before the final restrictions lifted. So that's pretty exciting. I was wondering, with the fixture coming out, where you're looking forward to playing, who you're looking forward to playing. Is there any matchups that you're particularly excited about?
Well, obviously, always thrilled and pumped to get out playing on the hallowed turf of Coleman. I think I've done 18 years in a row, every single Saturday, looking forward to playing at Coleman.
Love the hill.
Love the hill, love the grandstand, most picturesque ground in the RDCA.
No bias there.
No bias whatsoever. One of the clubs that does have beer on tap, I'm sure we're all aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly not missing playing on some of the grounds that we might have dealt with as younger fellas coming through the grades. Little shout out to Doncaster East Secondary College. The only ground in the RDCA that's more broken plates than grass. And whoever put the pitch in didn't know that the pitch was supposed to run from the longer side. So we had a long boundary of 20 metres and a wide boundary of 55 metres.
That is, it's not great for the bowling average, those ones. You look at your My Cricket career average, and it's just ruined by a season playing at home at Doncaster East. Well, that's what you tell your parents anyway.
Spot on. Well, in my case, play with my parent, and had the pleasure of seeing
no excuses then.
Had the pleasure of seeing the old man go for 50 in 3 overs at Doncaster East as a 14-year-old.
I reckon my nightmare ground would have to be back at Moorbuck when we used to play there back in the day. You'd get there and they just wouldn't have mowed it after summer every year. Knee-high grass, balls lost in the ring, looking for it, got 3 or 4 blokes looking for it. Rob Cutler doing rolls, trying to roll his body over the ball, but it's actually still, they're running like 7s and 8s, just trying to find the ball. That was definitely the most village thing I've participated in. I've participated in my fair share of village cricket.
A lot of village cricket, and you're absolutely spot on. That was definitely a case of the fattest team would always win.
We'd be pretty good at it now, actually, thinking back. We'll have to head back there in our old age.
Peaking for it. I might also give a little shout out to Little Warrandyte, absolute postage stamp out the back of Warrandyte, and was on the receiving end of a bloke scoring 300 as a young fella.
The creek and river just right behind, a few balls back in there.
Did not hit one ball out of the middle of the bat and somehow still plundered 18 sixes, 300, and they declared it 600 odd.
Oh, that is a cracking day of cricket. I can see why he's still playing 10 years later.
Hard to go past that.
Yeah. Now, with the fixtures and preparing for next season, we thought we would go straight to the top, and we've brought in the one and only VP, J.Exley. X, how you going, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Troy. Great to be here on the first Hawkscast. Absolutely a massive pleasure.
Oh, we're grateful to have you, and we want to get through as much information as we can for all the Hawks out there to get them ready for the season. And the first thing we wanted to ask you is, how's your knee? You've obviously stuffed the whole club up. You've cost us a premiership. For those of you who don't know, X decided to go to football training for the first time in 10 years the week before the finals this year. And he did his ACL. So did you get your surgery in, or did COVID ruin it all? How's the knee going?
Yeah, not too bad at the moment. I'm still gutted about that, missing the finals. But I managed to get the surgery in 3 months later. So in between the 2 lockdowns here in Melbourne, so I waited 3 months for the surgery. Got it done in May. So I'm now, 4 or 5 months post-surgery, getting the rehab done pretty well. Most days get it done, which is nice, and looking forward to eventually getting back out there whenever it may be.
That's great. Well, we wanted to ask you then how the season went in your eyes. You thought obviously didn't go too well on the last day, but I just want to get your thoughts on what you thought in a whole club sense, how the club performed last year.
Yeah, I think everyone was pretty happy with the end results, and going into the season, maybe we weren't sure where we sat. We were pretty happy with a few new signings. The first 11 looked a little bit different to the year before, but I think from a whole club sense, everyone was stoked to see all 4 senior teams make the finals. Even though we didn't net a premiership from that, I think it's a really good stepping stone for everyone at the club to get some finals experience and understand what that's like and what it might be like and what it takes to win a final. So I'm looking forward to the seasons in the future when we can use that experience and hopefully go one step further in a few grades, and guys can keep pushing to win that elusive flag.
Yeah, I definitely noticed the environment and the vibe around the club was up with teams regularly winning, and it was great to see a lot of younger fellas in the 3s and 4s getting some wins as well after a few barren years down there. So well done to the VP and the P, Matt Fass, and getting everything sorted and getting us onto the field in great shape. Just focusing on the ones, we obviously had a pretty good couple of signings. The Andy Solomon's coming in. Just wanted to get your thoughts there on how that's shaping up for next season as well.
Yeah, so Andy was massive for us last year coming in. Had a brilliant all-round season with the bat and the ball, and even in the field, often provided really great energy. Always had really great ideas as well. So the club's taken the step to appoint Andy as captain of the first 11 this season, which is really exciting news given his wealth of experience. Obviously, that means Josh Barrett will be stepping down from the position after 3 years in the role, including a grand final and 2 other years in the finals. So he's obviously done a really great job. But being able to pass the baton on to Andy now with Barrel still in the team, I think it's going to be really promising and really help out the younger guys in the team. We can get the most out of Andy, which is going to be brilliant. I think he's really excited, and everyone around the club's really excited to see what he's got to offer.
That's great. Of course, got Andy's ESPN Quick Info page up here, which is extraordinary itself that someone playing for South Warrandyte has a Quick Info page. 75 first-class matches, 65 List A matches, batting averages in the 20s, bowling averages in the 20s as well. So pretty incredible stuff to have a guy, he's only 32 as well, at the club and to lead us. So very lucky there, and hopefully he can go on to even better things next season. Any other signings in the ones this year? Is there anything else happening on that front?
Yeah, there's been a little bit going on pre-COVID or sort of during the lockdown. We had Sam Beagley sign or come back to the club, so really great news. Sam's a pretty fast bowler who will sort of spearhead the attack with a couple of the other guys, Tom Livo and Andy, that came in last year. So that's starting to make the bowling lineup look really ominous. Sam took 25 wickets in Wilkins last year for Norwood, so he'll be stepping back into Newey plate, and we expect him to play a really big role with the ball. But also, he's been appointed as assistant coach to coach Damien Bozzo, so he'll bring some new ideas and be able to help Damo out in that way, which we're also really excited for, and improving our training and some of the off-field banter as well. Obviously, everyone loves Beegs.
That's fantastic to get a former favourite son back at the club. Sean, what do you think of having Beegs back in the nets so you can have to face him about 7:30 at night, bowling huge no balls?
Absolutely terrified. Very strong memories of Beagley stepping over a metre, dropping in bounces in the dark. Barely picked the ball up in the big pine tree. So not happy at all. As an opening batsman, I'll be doing whatever I can to avoid that.
I've got a good story about Beegs in the nets. Him and Gaz were two of the biggest criminals for stepping over the line by a long way. And Turbo would probably tell you that I'm pretty bad for that as well, just to try and get a few extra yards. But Beegs was next level, and I think it was my first season when I broke into the ones, and Skull had just peeled off 100 in the twos the week before, and Skull made his first appearance at training in 10 years. He gave an absolutely stirring speech about how we just need to dig in with the bat. I had the pads on ready to go into the nets, and I was really inspired by what Skull had just had to say about making the 100 and what it takes and the mental side of the game. I walk into the nets. Skull had been talking and blabbering on for so long that it had actually gone dark while we were waiting for him to finish his speech. He comes in off the long run, steps 2 minutes over the line, and sent my pegs flying everywhere. Gaz took one look at that and said, "Nah, he's not up to it," and dropped it.
The hopes of the whole club on your shoulders, and you've just absolutely ruined all the momentum. Skull's speech of a lifetime, and just out the door.
One
moment of.
I'm absolutely amazed you picked up anything of what Skull had just said, but
with the spitting chips, and my most vivid memory of Skull is definitely playing a game at Stinton's Reserves where the opposition team brought out the tray of nuggets, and Skull pulled up his own chair like. The chairs were away. He pulled up the chair, put it in between the two scorers' chairs in the middle of the table, and just put himself right in front of the nuggets. Ate them all.
Well, most people do play cricket for the Arvo tea, so can't blame him there.
Yeah,
keep him away from the watermelon, though.
Yeah, he's got to cut down his sugars. So only 6 jimmies and no watermelon for Skull. Speaking of 6 jimmies, with functions a little bit up in the air, we're not sure what's happening there, but if we do get back on, do you know what the plans are for the season? What anything exciting happening on that front?
So we've got a couple of newbies on the committee. So a shout out to Ben Thompson and Tom Woodward, who were big drivers of the social element last year and plan to do that this year on the committee. We've also got Darcy Price, who loves to get involved with a social function. So those three together are planning some pretty exciting things when we can get back in the rooms. Obviously, there'll be the regular events like the trivia night, but we're depending on what we're able to do in the rooms and how many people we can have in there. We're planning some pretty exciting functions, and we're also hoping to get a couple of Zoom functions going on as well, if that's going to be only what we're able to do. So yeah, Das, Benny, and Turbo are working on that along with yourself, Troy. So pretty excited. What have you got planned for us?
Oh, just the usual, big DJ sets, a lot of turbo dancing on tables, and a lot of getting lifts from Budgie this year so that I can get absolutely pissed at the club and not have to worry about it. That's my plans. Maybe Sean can pick me up. Now we've got obviously got the function centre, which has been a huge boon to the club. It's been fantastic to have a drink there, big balcony, and all that. Is there anything else happening with that? Do we need? Are we getting some stands on the ground? What's going on with the function centre? Because I know Franz is always looking for upgrades.
Look, we're in a holding pattern there at the moment, but the absolute fantasy is to get a putting green out there and turn the whole balcony into a big garden.
That is exactly what I wanted to hear. Yeah, little pitch and putt onto the oval as well. Maybe get a couple of holes out in the oval. Get the pitch and putt. We'll get $50 a swing, and if you can nail Turbo on the field, you win the jackpot.
Sounds good.
Sounds brilliant. The scoreboard will be up and running as well this year. We'll make sure that that's a prime feature of the club. Absolutely awesome asset to have. Obviously, when Andy made that ridiculous 80 off 20 balls against Seville, we had the scoreboard going, and it made for quite a nice photo at the end of the day. So that's going to be a big part of the club going forward as well.
Oh, I like that. And on the grounds and leagues, I heard we had a little bit of a league merger. Do you want to explain that one for us, X, for all those who haven't heard about it?
Yeah, so the RDCA voted, or all the club presidents voted, to see whether clubs from the Yarra Valley Cricket Association would be coming into the RDCA. I think the Yarra Valley League's been struggling for a few years for participation, so they've decided to merge in, and there was a 100% vote for in favour of that happening. So all of the Yarra Valley clubs, following Mount Evelyn and Seville coming in last year, will be into the RDCA. I think the grading of those clubs is to come. I'm not sure if it'll affect the first 11, but it might affect the second 11. So I'm looking forward to hearing how late Sean's going to be to Warburton this year.
Oh, fantastic! Well, I think I'll be doing a few coin tosses if that's the case. My understanding was that Seville and Mount Evelyn, who joined Newey last year, were the strongest sides. So it's likely that those sides will probably come into the fourth and fifth Shield grades. Is that correct?
I'd say so. Mount Evelyn ended up finishing second, and Seville finished sixth or seventh. So they were the top two sides that came in. So I'd imagine the next couple of sides, which are Yarra Junction and Warburton, Sylvan, a few others, will be in the next couple of rungs down. So I suppose we'll just see where that ends up.
I think if the twos are going to be driving out there every week, then it's beholden upon the club to buy us a party bus. I think that's just fair and reasonable.
I'm just waiting for Sean's budget to come in, and then I'll be triggering that one.
Well, and as I understand, in the lower grades, they're going to split the RDCA into two pools. So Lilydale area teams might join those country teams, and then there'll be a more Ringwood-based area. Is that correct? Or is that not correct?
Yeah, there's been rumours. I haven't seen a confirmation of that yet, but I'd imagine that would be the best way to try and keep people involved and avoid sort of fourth and fifth 11s having to travel too far. So I think, they were the rumours a few weeks ago, but we'll just await the fixture in the coming days or coming weeks, and when we know that, obviously it'll be all over our socials.
Yeah, great. And our threes and fours, we're looking at 4 teams this year or 5, do you reckon?
Definitely 5. I think since the end of last season, we've been pushing the 5, and we'll get in contact with a few guys that are maybe 50-50, but I'm pretty confident we'll get the 5 teams up. We had probably 50 committed players last year, or maybe even more than that, maybe 55 with a few out each week.
Yep.
So we filled the 4 teams really easily, and in the finals, it made it a real tight squeeze when all 4 teams were in. So I'm hoping for 5 teams, and that'll be the push.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. So Croydon Hills will still be that lower ground, and I believe we're having a crack at Stintons as a 5th ground, but who knows? We'll see what happens there. Now we talked about the first captain. We're very lucky to have Andy in. Are there any players that have departed South this year for the Hawks family?
Unfortunately, we say goodbye to Josh Barr after 1 season. I think he'd be happy with me saying that Coleman maybe wasn't the ground for an off-spinner to come into the first 11.
No, another off-spinner's career ended by Coleman.
Yeah, so he's moving on to bigger things in the subbies with Box Hill, which will suit him really well, I think. His bowling style, we saw he was pretty unlucky last year. So many times he'd have a miss hit that would just fall over the fence. So we've talked with him and helped him make that move up into the subbies with Box Hill and with Damo's brother over there. So I think that'll suit him really well. And he had a great season. Love the boys. I'm sure we'll still see him around the club at some social events.
Yeah, great. And one final one for you. We've talked about the 1's captain. What about the 2's captain, S. McMahon? Here, is he going to be reappointed? Is he going to get demoted, promoted? What's happening with Shawnee?
Well, it's still up in the air. There's been a couple of indiscretions last season, which have been well documented. Across the
drop
last
catches.
Drop catches in important preliminary final moments, and leaving keys in his car, and forgetting his boots and things like that. So we're waiting to see whether Sean would like to step back into the position, but I'm sure that'll be decided in the next few weeks, and maybe the careers of a few guys will be decided based on that as well. I think a couple of the guys in that second 11 only play because they get to play under Sean.
Can you confirm or deny these rumours, Sean? Are you going to put your hand up again this year, or are you going to try and learn how to field and play at a higher grade?
Look, I'm about to drop a huge scoop for the inaugural Hawkscast, but absolutely I'll be taking over the role of the most loved captain of the club, and you'll see me at 12:45 every week asking Donis who won the toss at Telly.
I look forward to that. Always a good day out the field with Shorty. X, thank you very much for coming on and chatting all things Hawks with us.
Just before you go, X, one quick question from me. Is the Golden Duck returning? Can you talk us through the format?
Oh,
absolutely. Revolutionary on a Thursday night, I think. I must admit that Alex Katnar was the pioneer, and he really dragged me into it to start off with. And since his departure, I've sort of had to take over, and I've been longing for a new partner in crime, but no one sort of stood up enough. So I'll be taking it over again. The Golden Duck.
Flying
Thursday night fines. The money, would you believe, is rolling over for another season after we weren't able to spend it last year. Our post-season trip was, of course, cancelled, so that'll have to roll into next year. So it's going to be a big prize pool for us.
Sounds like the party bus may be on.
Ooh.
It could be.
Who got the most fines last year, X, out of interest?
Ben Thompson was a clear winner. I think he ended up with $40-odd.
Jeez, ahead of Turbo. That's incredible.
It's huge. It knocked Turbo off his 2-year streak. So Turbo won 2 years in a row with $30 or $40, and Benny came in as a first season player, which makes it even more remarkable.
That is huge.
It's going to be tough to beat again, I'd say.
Punching a Buffy's
Sculler
weight
as well.
Yeah,
I swear I've seen Skull get fined every week. Where was he? Was he up there towards the top?
Usual suspects. I think Skull came in maybe 3rd or 4th. I think Damo might have been up there. Darcy Church, absolute criminal for this sort of stuff. So,
well, we certainly look forward to that on a Thursday, whether it's via Zoom or otherwise. So, Golden Duck back for another year.
Absolutely.
X, thanks for coming, mate. It's been a pleasure.
No worries.
No doubt we'll have you back on later on in the year as well.
Yep, sounds great.
Thank you. Well, it's been great to talk about all things Hawks, but we want to talk about a little bit of other cricket as well on this show. And there's been a bit of international cricket, which has been going on late at night over in England, just getting us through this COVID period. England have played a series against Pakistan, the West Indies, and now the Aussies are over there. Sean, have you been tuning into this one at all?
Yes, I spent a lot of time watching the Windies. Would have loved to have seen them knock off the Poms.
Yes.
Very favourite cricket team, I think, the West Indies. A few units in that team that make a park cricketer proud, specifically aforementioned Raquel Cornwell. However, there's also something very nice about watching Holding lead the boys. Took on the hardest job in world cricket, being captain as a 20-year-old, and has performed exceptionally well, given lack of funding, lack of resources, and a lot of pressure from a nation.
Yep, definitely. I saw a few park cricket shots from some of those West Indies boys out there. Just a lot of very aggressive, unnecessarily aggressive hitting in Test cricket. But it was great to see them get a win in the first one, and I love nothing more than watching England lose in any sport. So I was really hoping for that series victory, but we didn't get it. Now, I was watching last night the Aussies playing a one-day, which they won, which was fantastic. But something really caught my eye watching Mitch Marsh in the car park searching for a ball. It really brought a warm smile to my heart, that one. I've always wanted to bring them down a peg a little bit, and now Mitch is doing the same thing that I am each Saturday.
It's absolutely spot on. Nothing worse than hunting for a pill in the car park and finding a ball that you've been salivating up for the afternoon, looking very sunscreeny and smelling a bit sunscreeny. And
you'd think you'd be done by that by the time you get to Australia. You'd think you'd never have to do that again.
Nothing worse than seeing a big hunk out of the shiny side of the ball and thinking, well, no good.
Cricket always finds a way, no matter where you get to bring you back down a peg, and I think that really sums it up. It's just watching Australian blokes in their jerseys out in the car park, no security helping them. Just fantastic scenes. Steve Smith copped a blow on the head though, which is a bit of a disaster.
I tell you what, if something makes you nervous as a cricketer, it's the best batsman I've seen in my generation. Unable to play a short ball says a lot. Should be outlawed from the game, the bouncer.
you'd be a bit of strife.
Sorry, it should be outlawed, a deliberate bouncer.
Very, very good. Now, each week we're going to have a little segment, the niche Shield cricketer on the week, just highlighting a past Shield cricketer's undersold fame. A lot of guys went through, particularly before the Big Bash era, had fantastic careers, and they were either on C7 Sport or just like streamed on the Cricket Australia app, where like even their parents probably weren't watching. So we just want to shine a light on those stars. The first one I've got for us this week is Andrew Fekete. He once made an Australian Test squad, but the tour got cancelled to Bangladesh and he never got to go. But Fek had played 39 matches at first class level for a bowling average of 30, with best figures of 10 for 110 in a match, playing for Victoria and Tasmania. So Andrew Fekete is my niche Shield cricketer of the week.
Now, is it true that you have had an interaction with Andrew Fekete in your time?
Oh, that rumour might be true. I, as you know, Sean, I took a 9 for last season.
Is that right?
And I didn't want to bring it up, but now that you've pushed me there, and I might have had a celebratory beer or two. And I was calling up a mate who plays for Camberwell, and Feck happens to be the captain of that team in the district.
Oh, Feck, is he?
No, I was just, Feck. I'm on nickname basis with him. And so I just asked my mate to pass the phone over to Feck because I just wanted to tell him that I was better than him. Obviously, I've just taken a 9 for. And, just slipped in my figures, mate, 9 for 38. And he said, that's all well and good. I've got 10 for a Shield match. I said, mate, it's not 9 in an innings. He said, well, I took 9 for 26 in a first grade game. and properly hung up on me. So, got absolutely alpha, no doubt about it. Put back in my place. But I'd like to see Feck come out and take 9 for against Wonga Park's second 11. That would be, you can do it. You can do it on do it out in the big leagues, but can you do it on a rainy day at Stoke?
I would absolutely love to know whether he also refers to himself as the last airbender. But
well, just I can't hide away from it. So
it is what it
is. It is what it is. Yep. Now, so we've got the next segments. We've got in a club legend, and we're going to have a chat to him.
One of our.
Next up on the Hawkscast, we've got a big club with lots of parts. One of those parts is the Vets. And so we thought we'd hark back to yesteryear and also, current year. He's still a fantastic player, I'm sure. And we've got T.Rule on the show. Tuggy, how you going, mate?
Going very well, mate. Thanks very much for the call. It's a privilege to be up, and funny times we're dealing with, but really looking forward to a cricket season. I can tell you right now.
Absolutely, and that's why we got you on. You're a man of many talents, and you've got a few things, fingers in a few pies for South Warrandyte. But first, I wanted to talk about your illustrious career because obviously there's a lot of back in my day at any cricket club, but no more than at South Warrandyte. I couldn't imagine there being more back in my day anywhere else. So we wanted to ask you about your career. Obviously, you played for both South Warrandyte and North Ringwood. I've seen your name up on the board. You're a club champion, former coach of South Warrandyte.
Yep.
If my cricket was available from the start of your career, what do you reckon your batting average would be?
Oh, geez. I was a bit like Shane Watson, very good at getting to 40 and 60, but not going on with it.
Right.
So I reckon I'd be probably 20 to 30, something like that. Not. I was just a hacker. Never played junior cricket, so when I came to senior cricket, it was all new to me. I came from indoor cricket rather than junior cricket. So
same here, actually, Tug. But you're a lot better at it than I am. But there you go. Neither of us played junior cricket.
An acceptable answer on the batting average is at least double Donis.
Yeah.
No, not for me.
You could have put any mayo on that you wanted, Tuggy. I've given you a real open-ended one.
So he's a very humble man. Very humble man.
So you say you didn't get past 40 or 60, but the last game of senior cricket you played, you made 100 in the twos. That's correct,
yes.
Isn't it?
Well, I was an angry man that day. I was an angry. That had absolutely all sorts of connotations about it. The year before, I'd played in the ones, obviously under Stu Batten and Darcy Price, and that was a particularly tough year for the club. And I was happy to stand up and get selected back in the ones, but it was a really tough year for the boys, and so I was particularly keen to do well that day. And typical story, my body let me down after that, so it was no good for the rest of the season. But actually, put Lilydale on the back foot for the upcoming final that we played against them that year.
Yeah, definitely. At least you'll always be in good form if you never play again. One thing I remember about that day is it was the first game after they brought the boundary in from the fence. So The boundary, for those who don't know, is about 5 metres in from the fence these days due to a insurance rule. And I reckon you hit about 6 sixes between that line and the fence. Can you confirm that?
Yes, absolutely, mate. I was wrapped. Whoever kept sliding into the fence made sure that. So logistically, we had to have a 2.18 metre exclusion zone for the fence.
Yep, that's it.
And these old bones made sure I could clear that massive 43 metre boundary.
Fantastic. Did you play any premierships in your illustrious career, Tug? What were your highlights that you remember?
So highlights were really so it's sort of in 3 parts, if you like. The first sort of South Warrandyte career, we ended up coaching. We went from being a really, really good team under Bob Neagle, and then Bazza took over as coach. And so I don't know if that was
This is the 90s, correct?
No, yes, it was. Sorry, yep. So that's mid to late 90s, and look, when we had, and I'm going to name drop here, when you've got Brash, Hanno, Jeansy bowling at you, these three blokes who just want to knock your head off, basically. It's a really good way to train, and it's a really good way. It's a quick way to learn batting, that's for sure. And so then, so the coaching left, and so as from Bobby down backwards, we sort of didn't make finals a lot and slipped down the grades. And then I ended up coaching, and felt it was almost best for me and the club that I walked away. Went to North Ringwood to find out how good a cricketer I was, and ended up playing in like 3 flags up there. So got him back into Chandler. So that was good fun. But end up winning another couple of 2s flags after that. So that was good. Then come back because my great mate Mara said, "Tug, you can nearly play vets again." And I'd retired for a whole of 12 months, and so I started playing vets, and it was good fun. And then from there went in and ended up captaining the 2s again, coaching the 10s and 12s, coaching running the vets. And so we've enjoyed some sporadic success leading up to a flag that we won with under Getsy in the vets, which was great fun. And now, obviously last year, it's not the pinnacle, but reaching a grand final in the top divvy and just falling a bit short was, it was a good game and good fun to be in. And but yeah, that's about it, mate. Not much to talk about in between. Lots of beers in between. I can guarantee that.
Wow, a hero of 2 worlds. That's quite the career, Tuggy. And part of this is we want to make sure that the history of the club is well known to those younger fellas, and you've certainly been a big part of that. Now, going forward and well into the future, we all know that you're not the best cricketer in your family anymore.
No.
And we've got our first Victorian superstar in a long time in the midst. Your daughter Tegan is the Victorian under-13 captain. Is that correct?
So that was the SSV under 12 and under. That was so for obviously 12 and under girls. Yep. She was the Victorian state captain. It was she led them beautifully, and once again, they didn't lose a game until the last day, the gold medal match against New South Wales, where it was when I ended up scoring. I was going to be YouTubing. I was going to be commentating on YouTube, but they couldn't get the link up.
That's a real shame.
But anyway, I ended up scoring that game, and to watch her make 96 in a granny on her own, basically out of they've ended up making 170. She was just spent, and she was just trying to hit out to get out because there was she wanted the other girls to have a hit more than her getting her ton. So it was
that's
extraordinary.
You've got to fix that, Tug. You got to let her know cricket's a selfish game.
Yes, well, it is. Look, stats are selfish, I think, but it doesn't matter if her intentions on the day were exactly the right ones, and I have commended her for it. And as I said, Kylie and I were just massively proud to be part of that carnival and have her as a skipper. But that's not the least of her achievements, obviously. So she went on and made her senior debut at Ringwood Cricket Club. So she's already played District 1's cricket.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
She's already a capped player at Ringwood. She already so a little anecdote about that was that she played Box Hill in her second game, and with Meg landing at cover, who was a childhood hero. When I say childhood hero, that sounds ironic to someone who's only 13 still. But and Meg's really, really lovely, but super competitive. So Tegan smashed a cover drive past her, and she made her run to the boundary for 3. And at the end of the over, Meg sort of walked past and said, "Nice shot, Tegan. Thanks for that." And moved on. So, but that was a really nice day. We got washed out that day, but Teagues to have that little anecdote sitting there with her, childhood hero was just once again, a great thing to have. But like Tegan does, she's not standing still. She's been training really hard. She's changed schools, gone to Rowville Sporting Academy, so she's going to train under Darren Berry now and get a lot better grounding in cricket and do other stuff along the way. So she's fantastic.
That is great news.
Very, very safe to say the best cricketer in the family. So that's by the length of the Flemington Straight.
That's a fantastic story for Southend for Tegan. She's certainly doing us proud out there, and not only is she a better cricketer than you, Tug, she sounds like a better person as well. So that's
impressive.
That is impressive, and
that is very impressive. Tuggy, one of the all-time great guys. Now, is it true that you, Tegan, and your wife have played in the same team at South Warrandyte?
Yep, and so that was absolutely, and sort of hoping to do that again this year.
Huge news! A bit of a scoop for the Hawkscast.
So under the great man Getsy, he sort of said, "Oh, Tug, can you play?" And I said, "Oh, well, I can, but I've got to bring Teagues." "Oh, Teagues can play," and "Oh, well, Kylie's doing." "Oh, okay, no, Kylie can play as well." So he's a great man, Getsy. He's an absolute champ, and he still to this day is absolutely spewing to not be recorded as Tegan's first senior wicket because he dropped a caught behind. So
disaster.
It was a mis-stumping. No, it was a mis-stumping.
Forget.
It was a mis-stumping, and to this day he still puts it up there as one of his biggest failures. So
telling me the Quinton Lynch brick hands didn't snap all that little stumping for Tegan.
No, incredible. It was symbols that day.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
Coming through with those real loopy off spinners, so he was just he had it 3 times before he got it spent, and there you go. But no, that's we've played on more than a few occasions with Getsy in that year, so that was good fun, and it was just good to get around with her. That's just show her what it's about, and she just doesn't take a backward step, so it's really good.
Well, that is what it's all about. Great family club, South Warrandyte, and plenty of father sons, including the co-host here. Sean played a lot of cricket with his old man, so we're very lucky to be able to do that and be able to give people those opportunities. So.
And if not for the dictatorship at selection table, probably would have had a few more games last year. And on the other side of 60, you can't pick your old man in the twos. So I still want change in the Constitution.
Yeah. There should be one captain's pick, shouldn't there, Shawnee? So
absolutely.
Well, he was running the 4s, wasn't he, at the time? So they couldn't drop him as skipper.
Well, and arguably my captain's pick had been used on myself too, not particularly for repeatedly turning late to games.
There you go.
Speaking of Getsy, I wanted to ask you who your most annoying teammate was over the years. Who's the teammate that really just got under your skin?
A lot of cricket to draw on here.
There is a lot of long afternoons.
A lot of long afternoons. The person that comes to mind is a current vet, and his name's Dave Geary, and he's the Wild Thing.
The Wild Thing. I've heard about this. The legend, the myth.
The myth, the legend, the ranger that is the Wild Thing, Dave Geary, and he is just a pest on the field because he's never there. He'll be if he's not bowling or having any active input, then he is just absolutely not there. So the ball could be hit straight to him and does on occasion, and so he's just one who switches off in the field, and that's more annoying to me than most. About people can muck around or be 3 metres this way or too deep or too short or whatever, and I'm not good enough a bowler or captain to worry about where they actually really should be. But Dave Geary's a real funny man. So I think.
Sean, do you have anyone else that comes to mind as a bit of a space cadet like that you've captained over the years?
Well, look, honestly, I'm probably the key fiend for not being ready when the ball comes in the year. And
I was going to say that. So
self-reflection is what going to what was directed from that question. But that's certainly been a criticism of my cricket over the years.
And you self-flagellate often for it, don't you, Dave?
Well, seems we've put a bit of a moz on there, but what about your favourite teammate? Who's the guy that has most got you motivated to get out there on a Saturday afternoon?
Bearing in mind, we have played a lot of cricket together, Tug.
We have played a lot of cricket. Do you know what? I'm going to hark back, and he's a great man, and was part of the era gone by. But to walk out and open the batting with Kev Sheehan was an absolute privilege. Now, Kev is a super, super competitive beast, and he would just never, ever give up his wicket. But he'd make you work, he'd make you run, he'd talk you through it, and he was an absolute legend. He was one of those blokes that was like having, Zach Badrock or Mummy behind you in the centre, sitting there at back pocket. You just walked bigger when he was on the field.
Yep.
Knowing that he had an answer for everything, and he just wouldn't ever give up, and he'd talk you through it as well. So, Kev Sheehan, current AFL list manager or whatever, he's the talent scout or whatever he's doing for the AFL. But the work that he did at South Warrandyte, and obviously had a couple of kids come through. Really, really good bloke. Really
now,
super bloke.
What era was that he played in, for all those that don't know?
So that was late 90s. I don't think he was there under Bobby Neagle, but definitely under Baz. And he was obviously trying to be. He was a funny bloke because he had an office in the city, and he'd run like 8K at lunchtime and then come home and run to training. And he lives on Serples Road, he would just run and run and run everywhere. And he was it was a bit of a shame he had to bring a kit on occasions, but. So that's the only reason he used the car. But look, he was really super guy. Obviously had that was another one of those that linked to one of the best junior cricket sides that ever played. In the RDCA was our under 16s team, coached by Tim Sheen and Ben Neagle, and so Brad and Tim Sheen were in that team. So they nearly had it. Well, funnily enough, the link to that grand final was that we had 10 guns in our team, and Steve Garrett playing for Warrenwood nearly brought us undone. So it was a big day. But
for those who don't know, Tim Sheehan is Kevin's Shifter Sheehan's son, and he went on to have an illustrious career. One of the all-time record holders at Fitzroy Doncaster Club in Premier Ones, was a South Warrandyte junior. So
Pete Dixon was in that team as well. So in that under 16,
he's the leading run scorer for Fitzroy of all time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So 200 gamer.
Pretty good side.
Pretty talent there. Yeah. It was just a shame we couldn't get him back. That was the Fitzroy.
One day.
Fitzroy Donny became their club, and if we can get them back at some stage doing something, because funnily enough they're now turning 40, so we might be able to find a little loophole there. But
get them in the vets, Tuggy.
2020 vets, I reckon Pete would go all right, and Timmy as well.
Well, speaking of vets, you are.
We did call Tim the Turtle, so that was a bit funny. So because he wasn't fast.
I'm sure that'll be if you just call him up and say, "Hey, Tim the Turtle, it's been 20 years. Do you want to come play vets?" That'll work just a treat.
Yeah.
Speaking of the vets, you are the vets captain, one of the teams.
Yeah.
How did the vets finish up last season?
So we lost the grand final last season. So we had we nearly didn't play a game against Ainsley Park, and they're a bit of a nemesis of ours, but we ended up with 7 players and lost by like 20 odd runs, which stung a little bit. But then from there we got a few new players in and a few players back, and ended up having a bit of a run into the finals. And if you look at the absolute benefit of playing vets and playing cricket just for fun, purely for fun. I am pretty competitive, but to rock up on a ground where I've got some great mates who I've played a lot of cricket with, to have Benny and Kane Hartrop, the brothers, bloody bopper, Benny Hartrop, absolutely smacked him in the granny. And then we have, guys who were Milne, if you know the lot, the ground at Lions Reserve, Milne hit the light pole straight, 3/4 of the way up.
Can hit a big ball, Mill Dog.
Oh, the big
Big
dog.
levers.
Big levers, and then in that team we've got Cooter and Hanno. Hoops isn't South Warrandyte, but he's a great man. Marty Smith,
Marty.
and
One of our favourites.
Marty Smith, the great man, and one of the still, I don't think he's stopped actually. I don't think he's missed a season since he was playing ones and twos when I first came to the club. And back in 1991, I think. And, so he's still going around now. So, but it was so much fun. Really, really good value, that game. And just to know that we've got, and now that generation of those under 16s coming through and being available for vets and stuff like that, it's a great place for us to be in. But just more importantly, it's more fun.
And
how good is that?
We've got
even better next year.
2 vets teams. Is that correct? We're one of the only clubs with 2 vets teams.
Now there's very few. There was like Wonga Park had 3 or 4 at one stage, and so now we are literally. I think it is only us and Wonga Park who have 2 teams.
That's fantastic. Great social environment. And I saw the vets were getting around for some T20s last year, which struck me as odd because I would have thought vets would only play T20s. To be honest, it seems like a perfect game for you guys. But can you tell us about that new competition?
Well, the RDCA and Dave Sherlock has been. It's the second year of the comp, and so we pretty much struggled a lot in those. When you end up playing against teams that have manufactured people into the team, you end up playing against district greats and blokes who played for Victoria, that sort of thing. So it's hyper competitive, but the actual format is really, really good, and it's like competitions, clubs from Ferntree Gully League, clubs from Boxall Reporter are all lining up to get in. So I think it's expanded again this year.
Great.
Cost a team $200 to get in, and there's prize money, and it's live streamed, the grand final and stuff like that. So they actually live stream the draw. So you get put into a pool, and then you get, whether you're playing home and away and who you're playing, they pull the ping pong balls out and that sort of stuff. So it's done with a bit of fun, but it's really well run. And Pete Cham, one of our great men, our vets coordinator, is on the committee there at the RDCA, and he's should be congratulated for the work he does there, and of course Phil and the executive. So it's good fun.
Real power broker, Pete Chammings.
He is.
The who's who of the vets world.
The quiet achiever, Pete Cham. The quiet
Fantastic.
achiever. So
well, that sounds like it's all happening down there in the vets. It's obviously a fantastic social environment to be part of, and I think the every second week will really suit us heading into the future. Sean, what do you reckon?
Very much looking forward to it. Probably a little while off, but after it'll be 30 straight years of Saturday cricket, I think I could transition nicely to every second weekend.
Yep. Yeah, I'll certainly pencil that one in. And Tuggy, we've got one other thing we wanted to talk to you about relating to South Warrandyte, because you are the face of the Community Benefit Fund. And for those of you who don't know, Tug, can you explain what the Community Benefit Fund is?
Yeah, I can, mate. And I won't talk specifics, but I can talk about myself. There was a couple of blokes at the club who, when I came back that year, we found out that my daughter Lacey had been diagnosed with leukemia, which is, no fun for anyone. But as a club, they sort of felt powerless to do something about it. And specifically, and I will name Paul Foley, and he was the chairman I took over from. He and a few friends got together and decided they should build this beneficiary fund, not necessarily to pay for, anything other than to be able to have the funds there available for if someone should get into hardship, if someone needs a bump up here and there, then that's what he thought the fund should be all about. And I certainly echo those thoughts. And it's been really successful actually up to this date, and we've been running, nearly 8 years now. And I just, there's blokes along the way who you really need to thank, and and it's been a bit of a thing for me. But a great patron along the way was Mick and Kelly. They put a lot of time and effort into the fund, and I thank them for it. Veronica Williams was on the fund there, and she also, was a power in getting the fund to a level where, we've picked it up. We've actually not done a lot of fundraising in the last couple of years because the club's been in, not a perilous financial position, but where any sort of funds we raised needed to go towards the new club rooms and fitting them out. And so I think we're looking good in those terms, with the club looking fantastic as it is. And if we can just generate some income, as a result of that, then we'll be pretty wrapped. But no, the fund is we've got 6 committee members. Everything's voted on by committee. So if it's not a unanimous decision, then it goes to another vote or find another option. So it's not just Tug's got this fund, he's going to hand out some shillings to whoever needs it, sort of thing. So it's it's a really great idea, and I'm really proud to be the chairperson of it. But I'm absolutely the beneficiary of some great work done before me, and so there you go.
And so if any Hawk out there is struggling, particularly these COVID times, they're to contact you. Is that correct?
Exactly, yeah. So it's open to all members. So if anyone has, and is struggling with specific financial or, other, sometimes it just could be someone who needs some advice about something. And I'm not putting myself up to be a psychologist or anything, but I could just be a point where the club's so large and I, for want of a better word, touch so many people that I can go, rightio. I can use an instance we just had where a person had some issues with an injury, and I then got a hold of Rhonda Jones. And Rhonda Jones is has been a registered nurse for for 40 years. She's now retired, but she is an absolute font of information, and she has absolutely helped this person. Yes, we did help financially, but she was able to get this person onto a GP or surgeon that was absolutely suitable, and we're really, really happy that the outcome that we've had to this point is really positive. So, no, it's the way we're looking at it. So it's great.
Oh, that's fantastic, and it's great to be part of such a community like that can all help each other out, and especially in these challenging times, it's lovely to know that you can reach out to someone. And we encourage anyone out there at the moment to check in on a Hawk and ring a friend and see how they're going. Tug, one other thing, we there was a fundraiser last year, I believe, for the CFA. Was that through the vets? Yep.
Once again, yeah, Pete Chamming's the great man. Once again, is the quiet achiever, and the so I sort of end up becoming the face of things, vets related. But I'm just the bloke who turns up on the day, pretty much, and Pete's the one who really drove that day. It ended up being a bit of a father-son sort of scenario. We end up raising $2,000 to support the CFA, which was really, really good. And as it turns out, so we all know of the fires that were there down in Gippsland and beyond last year. Well, the South Warrandyte CFA drove down in a couple of trucks and ended up having warm water and getting crook from even warmer sandwiches, that sort of thing. So we've provided a couple of 12-volt fridges for them and carry bags and stuff, and so they can travel anywhere now and have cold stuff and be able to freeze stuff along the way. And so that's another thing that we're really proud of. But once again, I'm just I had the benefit of not being captain, but getting sent out to bat and having the 14-year-olds bowl at me that I was able to smack over the fence and
ruthless.
We like that here.
What else is cricket about?
No, that's right. If you can't smack a 14-year-old around the park, when how can you? So
sounds like a perfect day to me.
Yeah.
Well, Tug, thank you very much. We've got one more segment for you. And
lucky last. The best till last.
Lucky last, yep.
We want some advice to the head of the community fund, and you're handing it out. So, each week on this program, we want the people out there, the Hawks, to send in their questions if they want it answered. If they've got a scenario that they maybe thought that didn't play out that well, and there was an alternative they could have taken, and they'd like some advice, we want them to write in and ask us. So please send in your questions. I'm going to get the ball rolling for us with this one. My question of the week. This one actually made the Grade Cricketer podcasts. Not that we are
taking the Hawkscast international.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. We've taken any of the format of that particular podcast, but we're ripping off their segment here because I set this one in and I made the show, and I'd like to ask you, Tuggy, because you're a man with a great moral compass. I need to know, am I a shit bloke? Now, I've had
Is
to
that
ask
a
this
direct question, or are you going to?
only the
I was
parameters.
going to say, don't answer yes too quick.
Only in the parameters of this example, please. I don't want to be analysis on my entire life. Just from this story, a few years ago, we were playing a game out in Warrandyte in the first round, and they absolutely pounced us first day. About an hour into the second day, they'd already won the game. And I thought, oh, geez, this is pretty average. Sean hadn't even turned up yet. He's the captain. He locked your keys in your car, Sean. Was that right?
I believe I may have actually left my keys at work and been required to catch an Uber to the office to pick up the keys, an Uber back from the office to my house before driving the 50-minute drive from Coburgistan across to South Warrandyte Cricket Club. I was calling Donis frantically along the way of, look, I think you might have to take control this day. I think we've got a bit of issues here. Rock up after game was sort of in the balance overnight, and then one of their blokes got a hold of us.
I believe Nick Queen sub-fielded for you, Sean, and in the one thing he had to do, the ball went through his legs before and he injured himself.
Right.
I can definitely confirm that did occur, and it was probably the only good thing to happen out of that day at that point.
Was this a game at Stinton's?
No, this was at South Warrandyte.
That's South Warrandyte versus Warrandyte, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I finally show up, and would you believe it? We've already lost. Game over. And the captain of the opposition, Dutchy Holland, rather than steamrolling us, as is the way in local cricket, decided to quite sportingly try and win it outright. So our boys, Matty Mullen and DC, proceed to score tons.
Yeah.
And it's 35 degrees, and I certainly didn't want to go in and field because I was sufficiently hungover. And just kept him batting, and Dutchy comes to me at 10. He says, Sean, I'm not happy to just be fielding practice for you blokes. You guys need to go for a result. And I thought, no, that's fair enough. So I gave the boys enough time to get their tons. And then with 22 overs left, I think, to go, we set them a target of 140 odd. And proceeded to absolutely rout through them. Now I'll let you take it from here, Donis.
Yeah. Well, they went for the win for whatever reason, and we took a few early wickets. And then I noticed one of their best bats, a former South Warrandyte player actually, Stu, just drives off before the game's finished, and I'm thinking that's a bit interesting. Just gets in his car and
very strange decision.
And we win the game. Bowl them out in 14 overs, 9 down. And go on to celebrate heartily, as you can imagine, Tug. Many beers for stream that night. You were there. There you go. You were there. Reverse outright. Huge day. We played about 5 weeks later, and they haven't won a game yet. There's some mumbling in the change rooms about Dutchy's, in the Warrandyte change rooms about Dutchy's declaration. They're still complaining about it. Their season's obviously gone awry, and we go out to bowl to them at Warrandyte. I think they were 4 or 5 for 11 very early on.
Big dog had ripped through them.
Big dog steamed through them. There was a mix-up. Dutchy ran himself out. So bit of a disaster going on over there. And then Stu comes out to bat. I didn't get much of a chance to bowl at him. My lot of overs were almost done. But I remember taking a slip out, putting it in on the fence because, as you know, he's quite a lusty hitter over mid-wicket.
Yep.
And sure enough, that ball, he just edges it straight to where the slip was. My overs are done. So I'm thinking, how can I get back in this game, you know? how can I help my team as a great club and as a great team man that I am? And I think I'll just mercilessly sledge Stu. So he starts bombing sixes, and I'll just say, "Oh, come on, mate! A few weeks too late, mate. The season's over. Where were you?" That's another one. Then your missus coming to pick you up, mate. Bloody hell! She's like, you got to go early. You got to go to the races again, mate. What's happening? Bombs another six. Oh, easy, big hero. Yeah, you got your cape on now, and you're bloody 5 for nothing and 0-5 for the season, mate. Your teammates not impressed by this. They're just wondering where you were 5 weeks ago. Bloody, you better had a broken leg, Stu, last time, mate. You had to cost your teams a season. Bang, another 6, easy over the rope. Stu, mate, what are you doing? You're a soft, you absolutely cost your team. The season's over. What are you doing? You're an absolute hack. Going at him. Anyway, he starts yelling something at Sean, and Sean, you might be able to enlighten us later on exactly what he said, but I didn't hear it at the time.
No, he started running down the pitch.
He was
running strongly. He was walking very angrily towards Troy, pointing at me and saying, "You're a shit bloke." A lot of animosity in it.
Yeah, a lot of anger. And he's not really an angry guy. I was surprised by this, but there's a very windy day. Sean, I didn't hear what the discussion was between Sean and Stuart. Sean walks up to me and says, "Oh, Troy, you better apologise." And I mean, Sean never really. I've crossed the line a few times, I'm sure. Sean's never asked me to apologise, so I sort of half-heartedly gave an apology, which just drifted off into the wind. And I got off the field. And Sean, do you want to let us know what that conversation was with Stu?
I believe the words were, "You're a real shit bloke. I'm being treated for cancer."
Right.
Yeah, so I'd been sledging a guy all day that had cancer and was getting leukemia treatment. And I want to know from you, Tug, does that make me a shit bloke? I didn't know. I apologised.
You did apologise.
I did apologise.
But his heart certainly wasn't in the apology, let me tell you.
I think I have to preface this by saying that there's a distinct degree of animosity between South and Warrandyte. So the games that I've been involved with and not even been involved with have managed to become fractious, and
the Battle of the Bridge.
It's the Battle of the Bridge. So with that heightened level of animosity between the teams, and that rivalry that actually steps back a long, long time, I think yes, you're a shit bloke, Troy. So,
Tuggy. I didn't know. I swear.
No.
I'll tell my mum that didn't make the grade. That I've done the club a disservice.
Yep. That once.
Just that one. Yeah, just that one time.
Just that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
there you go. No, I think it's official though. You're
a fair judge. I can't comment on your impartiality, so I'll just take that one on the chin. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for your time today, Tuggy, on your inaugural guest on the Hawkscast. And we've certainly enjoyed you listening to your spin at yarn. Thanks for coming on.
No, absolutely pleasure, guys, and it's great times for the Hawks Nest. Everyone really looking forward to a season getting when it gets away, we'll love it. But from everyone on the committee, from FAS and to Barrel and Solo and Damo, I think we're pointing in a great direction. It's great to be a part of, and been great to be a part of this inaugural podcast, guys. So thanks very much.
All right, thanks, Tuggy.
Pleasure to have you on board.
Good on you, lads.
Cheers, Tuggy.
Thanks, Mark. Fair to say that the COVID numbers on a daily basis are the only stats I watch even closely.
Thanks for joining us on the first episode of the Hawkscast. We'll be doing this throughout the season as restrictions on community clubs are still in place, and we may not be able to get to see each other as much as we'd like. So we'll be keeping you updated with all things Hawks here, and hopefully we'll see you soon.